Seltzer Kings.
Podcasts.
So, you just started using LinkedIn Premium. Now what? Well, on your premium company page, you noticed around 7.5 times more page engagement and 5 times more page views. Well done. And now, new clients are messaging you. All because you're using LinkedIn Premium, which helps you get the business growth you want. Think big, small business. Think big. Start your free trial at linkedin.com/premium small business. That's linkedin.com/premium small business.
Well, if I had to guess, Gavin, I would say it's because British food is already so bad that the candy couldn't possibly be any more dangerous.
Yes. The following podcast contains...
What the f*** you do that for? Hey, that was... Don't swear. What are we? Werewolves, not squirrels.
Explicit language.
Hello and welcome to the podcast that asks a simple question. When you shotgun that Coke on top of a belly full of Pop Rocks, what the hell were you thinking, Mikey? I'm your host, Dave Bledsoe, and this is Summer Short number 2, Cause of Death, Pop Rocks, where we talk about stories not big enough to carry a full episode. I get a little writing break. This week, we're talking about that time people thought Pop Rocks could kill. Stay tuned. What the Hell Were You Thinking podcast is brought to you by returning sponsor 1983, the year your childhood died. In 1983, the movie Staying Alive came out that ruined John Travolta's career for well over a decade. 1983 also gave you the Internet Protocol address, making the modern internet possible and everything that came after that. We killed Atari with the release of the worst video game in history, E.T. the Extraterrestrial video game. The band Kiss took off their makeup and somehow looked even worse. And finally, Jaws 3D proved that, yes, we could make a sequel worse than Jaws 2: The Revenge. 1983, we gave you the Nintendo NES and took everything else you love in exchange.
Hey, what's happening?
The crackling's what's happening!
Pop Rocks!
There's bang to the bite!
Pop Rocks!
The sizzle makes you giggle!
Pop Rocks!
Taste satisfied!
Pop Rocks!
It's snapping! It's crackling! The crackling's what's happening!
Pop Rocks! Introducing Pop Rocks Cracklin' Candy. They'll burst all over your mouth in cherry, grape, and orange. Pop Rocks!
Taste out of sight! Pop Rocks!
The Cracklin's what's happening.
When I was a little redneck boy, I wanted to do all the things bigger rednecks got to do.
To get finger fucked by your cousins.
What? No, there was no cousin sex in my family. Or at least none that I was privy to. What I'm talking about is the things like wearing trucker hats and leaning against the walls and muttering incomprehensibly about the government. And of course, grinding a large wad of tobacco leaves up in my mouth and spitting out the juice.
So charming and so cultured.
Now, most kids would use a proxy substance, a shredded bubble gum in a pouch that was intentionally modeled after chewing tobacco.
You're in the big leagues when you make a perfect play. You're in the big leagues when you keep the team alive. You're in the big leagues when you block a start or two. You're in the big leagues when you're in the big league chew.
Big League Chew, man-sized wads of great tasting shredded bubble gum stuffed into a giant Stay Fresh pouch. For Big League flavor and Big League bubbles, it's Big League Chew.
You're in the big league when you're in the big league chew.
This kind of marketing is, of course, horrifying to modern ears, but it wasn't improper in the least in the late 1970s when, us kids were just naturally assumed to be future consumers of addictive, carcinogenic capitalism.
Smoke much?
Well, I gotta say, they weren't wrong. But you see, I wanted to be a real redneck. So one day, I went to a little store near my house with a couple of bucks and told the clerk that my dad wanted a pouch of Red Man chewing tobacco.
Isn't that a little racist?
Oh, it was more than a little racist, but again, it was all good back then. The clerk didn't even blink. I could have told him I was buying it to share with me and my 9-year-old buddies, and he would have been all like,
Yeah, whatever.
because no one fucking cared. He had him in my pouch of chaw, and I went outside and took a big wad of that chaw and stuck it in my mouth and began to vigorously chew on it like a cow does her cud. And pod friends, would you like to guess what happened next? Oh, yeah, because I was not emotionally or physically prepared for the sheer amount of juice that came when you shoved a giant wad of moist tobacco into your mouth and it mixed with your spit. because way more of that spit went down my throat than I was ever spit out on the ground. And for about 5 minutes, everything was fine. And then everything wasn't, when I immediately regurgitated everything I had consumed for roughly the past 10 days. I thought I was going to die. And I did this because TV back then hawked a lot of products, Mark, that were marketed and sold to kids that let children pretend to do the things that adults did, and it would just horrify people today. And that led us to do the actual things that the adults would do, which we got away with because, again, no one fucking cared. None of this shit would happen today where the parental class fear anything more than dangerous than distilled water or compressed oxygen from being near their fucking crotch fruit. And that's probably why kids are dropping dead from a fucking peanut within 50 nautical miles of their person. Tell you, none of that shit happened when I was a kid. There was no such thing as a fucking EpiPen. If you had an allergic reaction to something, you either got better or you died on the spot. And you know what? If you did die, it's probably because you did something stupid. Which brings me to this week's topic. That time when Pop Rocks killed a kid.
That never happened.
Yeah, but we all thought it did. Now, where there's a regular episode, you would now receive a 5 to 7 minute digression on the history of candy or some shit. A digression
You didn't ask for, and you don't want it.
As this is a summer short, I can save us both the time by simply cutting to the chase and tell you what is a Pop Rock. In 1961, a couple of research chemists...
I thought we weren't going to do this.
And we're not talking about all candy, I'm talking about Pop Rock specifically here. Or where was I? All right, a couple of research chemists for the General Foods Corporation.
What do they make?
Non-specific foods, I guess, but the company is an antecedent of the Post Cereal Company, which was then bought by the cigarette company Philip Morris and some strange brand synergy, and later merged with Kraft Food in 1990 to become Kraft General Food and Cigarettes, only to drop the General Food and Cigarettes to just be Kraft Food, because apparently...
Smokers are jokers!
Anyway, these two chemists, think about that for a second. Why are chemists making fucking food instead of, say, farmers or even biologists? And that explains a lot about why Americans are such fat fucks today. The chemists' names were Leon T. Krezimer and William A. Mitchell, and they filed a patent for a fizzy candy.
But why?
Because I guess no one had ever done it before. Quoting now from Mental Floss, quote, Pop Rocks were the brainchild of food scientist William Mitchell, who was working for General Foods in 1956 when he started experimenting with a way to make carbonated beverage powder, essentially a fizzy Kool-Aid. The only thing that worked were these tiny granules of carbonation, which he decided to taste. To his surprise, the bits made an edible crackle once the sugar had dissolved. Recognizing the texture in Pops would be something different, he asked other food scientists to try it. It became a game. Who could swallow the biggest chunk, Mitchell told people in 1979. It was a fun afternoon and we wasted a lot of time, but I thought it was a good thing from the start, unquote. The effects of the hard candy made from hard sugars and compressed carbon dioxide was not unlike drinking a carbonated soda, only it was your spit that released the CO2 to make the fizzy noise in your mouth. I did not eat Pop Rocks for this show. That was a Pop Rocks ASMR, which is apparently a thing. This patent languished a full 15 years before someone at General Foods and Cigarettes discovered it and finally brought a product to market in 1976, a fruit-flavored candy that they called Pop Rocks. Now, as a member of the first generation in the target age graphic for this product, I have first-hand experience as to what the original Pop Rocks were like.
Cool. Kind of weird.
To be clear, the candy was not particularly flavorful. It tasted like a berry-flavored candy did at the time. Flavor blasted fruity, but not particularly like any specific kind of berry, though it was purported to be cherry. However, the experience of the fizziness on the tongue was different, and the noise it made was definitely annoying to parents, which was strong selling points for a child, but in general, Pop Rocks were not a good candy, certainly not when compared with anything with chocolate and or nougat involved. I do not know why candy companies thought we kids wanted berry flavors in our candy.
We're going to try to make you healthy.
Yeah, you didn't. We had berries in our soda and, fruit. What we wanted was chocolate, nougat, caramel, and occasionally coconut. And once the initial newness of the fizzy tongue wore off, there was nothing especially good or exciting about Pop Rocks. Just another lump of sugar candy. And this boringness would be a perfectly plausible reason for taking Pop Rocks off the market. But what if I told you there was a darker, more sinister reason for its removal from the market? What if I told you that Pop Rocks kill?
Say you were lying.
From Snopes.com, quote, though the confection had been extensively tested and found safe, the combustive candy still alarmed residents in Seattle. The Food and Drug Administration set up a telephone hotline in Seattle to assure anxious parents that the fizzing candy would not cause children to choke. Nevertheless, among kids, wild stories spread about the perils of eating Pop Rocks, such as a kid ate 6 bags of Pop Rocks at a party. He then proceeded to drink a 6-pack of Pepsi. The 2 substances combined in his stomach and exploded, killing him horribly. That's why Pop Rocks were taken off the market in the early 1980s, unquote. Okay, real quick. Who the fuck eats 6 bags of fucking Pop Rocks and then chugs 6 Pepsis? Was this fucking kid Eric Cartman? No one did that. Sorry. Back to the script. Now, not just a kid, not just a generic kid, but it was a very specific kid. A kid that any Gen X child would instantly recognize that died from this terrible concoction. And it was this kid right here.
What's this stuff? Some cereal. It's supposed to be good for you. Did you try it? I'm not going to try it. You try it. I'm not going to try it. Let's get Mikey. Yeah. He won't eat it. He hates everything. He likes it. Hey, Mikey.
There are 2 kinds of Life cereals to please all kinds of kids. Regular Life and Cinnamon Life. Make Life cereals part of your nutritious breakfast.
What you did not see, because this is an audio product, were 3 70s children at the breakfast table. 2 of them speak. The silent third is Mikey, the test subject for the aforementioned cereal. Mikey, played by a child actor by the name of John Gilchrist, who, according to them, tragically died of Pop Rocks. I will let McSweeney's satirical retrospective explain this tragedy. Quote, this Life cereal commercial was such a success that it lasted almost 15 years. And its young star became a national hero. Mikey was a symbol of hope for kids everywhere. It seemed that little Mikey might very well lead us all into a cereal renaissance. But then, tragedy struck. Just a few months after Mikey's commercial debut, we were told the crotchety kid with a heart of gold had died. We were shocked at this terrible news. How could a world made so beautiful by Mikey have taken him from us? The story told time and time again was that this poor, foolish Mikey had eaten a deadly combo of Pop Rocks and Coca-Cola, and the fizz created by this fusion caused his stomach to explode, unquote. I probably need not tell you this, but this did not happen. It is in fact nearly impossible for this to happen, as there just happens to be a biological escape mechanism built into all anatomies which prevent gaseous buildup from expanding the stomach beyond its capacity to contain. Perhaps you are familiar with the phenomena. I say nearly impossible because humans can develop something called a gastric torsion, in which the stomach twists itself into basically a knot, but is extraordinarily rare and cannot be caused by Pop Rocks. We are talking about human beings, not a goddamn German Shepherd. But this did not stop the rumor from spreading like wildfire. Quoting now from Thrillist.com, quote, John Gilchrist, the child actor best known as Mikey from Life cereal, was tossing a baseball around in 1979 when his mom got a bizarre phone call from a stranger in tears. I'm so sorry to hear about your son, the woman wailed. What do you mean? Gilchrist's mother shot back. He's in the park. He just came home from school. Probably just a wacko, his mom thought. But it weirded her out, recalls Gilchrist, now 49. So she sent my oldest brother to drive by the field where I was playing to make sure that I was okay. And that is when I first heard the Pop Rocks story. Mikey lost his life, hollered children on playgrounds across America. Spooked parents who heard the tale flooded the headquarters of General Foods, the company behind Pop Rocks, with worried calls and refused to let their kids eat the fizzy fat candy, which arrived on shelves with great fanfare in 1975. Sales plunged, and when that story hit the country, it was like bam, says Jerry Salzberger, a former Pop Rocks business manager for General Foods, unquote. General Foods did what they could to prove that Mikey was alive and well. They hired the actor who played Mikey to appear at press conferences to demonstrate that he was alive. Thing was, no one believed it, because Mikey, well, this kid was clearly too old, because Mikey was 3. And that was true because John Gilchrist, when this happened, had aged 9 years and was now 12 years old. General Foods was accused of a cover-up.
That's just what they want you to believe.
That the kid they showed was a crisis actor to conceal the real truth about Mikey's blowed-uppedness. The company hired sociologists and private investigators who would track down the source of the rumor, thinking, and I swear to God, I am not making this up, that their cereal rival Quaker Oats was engaged in acts of corporate espionage, which I can only assume was paid for by Wilford Brimley's special operatives.
Start an oatmeal fund. Quaker Oats. It's the right thing to do.
I pulled these, I'm just going to call them facts, from a LinkedIn post. Quote, the investigations all showed that the rumors had in fact originated organically at the grassroots level by many different nerdy kids throughout the country. It would happen this way. A kid in middle school would try to make himself popular and cool by demonstrating how brave he was. He would tell everyone that swallowing Pop Rocks and then drinking soda might explode his stomach. He would then eat the Pop Rocks and drink the soda, thereby demonstrating his bravery. In case you wondered, what happens actually is you burp very loudly. To kids in middle school, this is also pretty fun. There was not a coordinated effort. This all took place long before social media existed. The kids doing these things in different locations did not even know each other. They were just doing it to have a fun time, unquote. And so it was that Pop Rocks was gone because of a totally bullshit rumor about a kid from a cereal commercial blowing up.
Or was it?
Yeah, the reality is, that's a bit more prosaic. Remember just a few minutes ago, I told you that Pop Rocks were kind of boring once the fizzling novelty wore off?
Yeah, you did say that one.
In reality, the sales flattened out after a couple of years, and while they did take a small hit from the Mikey rumor, their product was pretty much on its way out. Wikipedia explains, quote, General Foods renewed in 1983 cited its lack of success in the marketplace and relatively short shelf life, unquote. And Snopes goes on to explain in more detail, quote, what's less well known is that Kraft bought the rights to the product from General Foods in 1985 and then marketed it as Action Candy through a company named Carbonated Candy, unquote. And after the merger with Kraft, the patent was sold to a Spanish candy maker and the candy returned under the name Pop Rocks and is still for sale today. If you want some subpar candy whose only charm is the noise it makes in your mouth, you can find it almost anywhere. So even the rumor about Pop Rock's death is just as bullshit about the rumors that said Pop Rocks caused death, because John Gilchrist is alive and unexploded today. He works in the movie business and he's worked on such films as Speed 2, Cruise Control, okay, maybe he should have blown up, The Notebook, and Outer Banks. He still enjoys live cereal, though I couldn't find anything to confirm whether or not he still consumes Pop Rocks. All of this happened without the internet. It was spread word to mouth from one kid to another and traveled across the country in weeks, as opposed to minutes, which it would do today. Because people love to believe in bullshit. The dumber the bullshit, the faster the bullshit travels. If we could harness the power of bullshit to power our spacecraft, we would be out boinking green aliens and living the Kirk Riker life right now. There's this old saw that a lie will circle the world while the truth is still putting its shoes on. But now, thanks to the internet, the lie can actually do that while the truth is still pondering taking its morning shit after sipping its morning coffee. And that's why the truth just doesn't stand a fucking chance. And if you want to know why this is the case, well, I'm going to let George Carlin explain it to you yet again.
Some people are really fucking stupid. Did you ever notice that? How many really stupid people you run into during the day? God damn, there's a lot of stupid bastards walking around. Carry a little pad and pencil with you. You wind up with 30 or 40 names by the end of the day. Look at it this way. Think of how stupid the average person is, and then realize half of them are stupider than that.
The sad reality of human stupidity is simultaneously the raison d'etre and the bête noire of this podcast. And the Mikey story is just one more example for you, the listener, that all of this shit we are going through now has been going on forever. The only difference today is the speed of the stupidity. So, don't worry about shit. Enjoy a Coke and some Pop Rocks. You'll probably be fine.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
This message comes from Greenlight. Ready to start talking to your kids about financial literacy? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app that teaches kids and teens how to earn, save, spend wisely, and invest, with your guardrails in place. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Join millions of parents and kids building healthy financial habits together on Greenlight. Get started risk-free at greenlight.com/Spotify.
That is it for this summer short. Another story that I easily could have padded out to a full show because I am very good at tangentials. But the purpose of these is to give me a little break. And pod friends, I'm going to need one because starting July 1st, we kick off Summer Series 2024. And it's going to be a big one. If you haven't heard our teaser trailer, go back in your feed for all the details. But if you need a little foreshadowing.
Latest sex scandal.
There will be names you know, names you don't, and oh, so many tasteless jokes, which is the real reason I'm doing it, and the real reason you're listening. So until then, rate and review, donate $1 at patreon.com/whatthehellpodcast, and do all the stuff Jeremy tells you to do in the closing credits. Otherwise, yada, 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 short show. And so for me, Dave, the only thing that should be mixed with Coke is bourbon. Bledsoe, producer.
You Yanks, infantile candies will be the death of you eventually.
Gavin, and all the fictional Mikeys on this show. We want to say that it was harder to come up with a closing song for this than it really should have been because the choice was so fucking right there all along. And we'll see you all next week.
What the Hell Were You Thinking stars Dave Bledsoe and features Gavin St. James and several fictional minions. The show is produced by Kimberly Steele and a part of the Seltzer Kings podcast network. You can find more information on the show on their website, whatthehellpodcast.com, or on Twitter at @thehell_podcast, or on Facebook as What the Hell Podcast. Thanks for listening.
I have no ending for this, so I take a small bow.
Scandal, this guy's unbelievable.
Seltzer Kings
Podcasts.